There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. There we go. Hello! Okay, we are officially live. We're waiting for a restream chat to also go ahead and go live. Okay, there we go. We have connected to YouTube. And we are going to be having our first Emberverse class today, basically. I'm not gonna call it a class, because I'm basically sitting here, being your teacher and teaching you about the lore. Yay! Hello Usopp! Hello Medizee! Just like I said, I did come back. I came back and we are going to do Emberverse stuff today. You may notice, if you're on Twitch, that says we're playing Roblox. That was not a lie. Yay, story time, got your popcorn. Okay. So, we will be holding our class here in Update Simulator. The only class you care about. Where basically it's just, let me explain my stories to you. So you guys can go ahead and join and chill out here if you want. In this wonderful game that Tyus made basically as a hangout. It's called Update Simulator because all that's there is updates right now. But this is where we're going to do it. So if you guys want to hang out, you can do it here. Can I type in chat so you can join too? What? What do you need? The classroom, the... What? Okay, so we have the classroom, we have Roblox, we have Discord. You can't watch? That's unfortunate. We have, what else? Twitch, YouTube. All the links that you would probably care about. I'm talking about my lore. What Kawaii do know. I'm talking about what you know as Wings of Origin. I'm introducing this whole thing to my chat. And this expands not just to the written story. This expands to, like, SMP proximity, Roblox. I'm telling them the story. Kawaii do know, he was there when the story was created. He had a character. Back long before it is what it is now. He had a character named Burno. And I think that's all I need to say for him to know what I'm talking about. Yep. So we are going to be chilling here in Update Simulator, which is what, again, we jokingly call it. And we're going to be having our first class. Not a real class, not one that you'd actually get graded for. But we'll be talking. Don't worry, I'm not gonna talk about Burno. I'm not gonna talk about Do you not like your character, Mr. Kawaii? Do you not? Hello. I can talk and chat some. I be up here. Come in, come in. Come into class. Come into class, everyone. You all can come in. Hello, vegan water. The door's open. Okay. Yes. Where's the game zinc? Oh, okay. So if you go to the group, this is the one game on groups. On the group. Okay. So what we are starting with today is, okay, it may be a little too slow to talk in chat, also. It'd be really long if I like, typed everything out. But, basically, what we're talking about today is, let's see, yes, fog water. Where's the game thing? Oh, okay, yeah, I can link the game really quick. We're going to be talking about pretty much, let me go back onto Roblox. Like, the different groups of people. Because today I was like, maybe you could talk about the cycles of the universe, but that all makes sense if you understand, like, the kind of different layers. Not really layers, it's kind of like tiers of people there are, but not really. It's just different beings, different abilities, kind of in different places. If that makes any sense. It'll make more sense as we go on. Okay. Here's the game. Right here. Let me make sure that goes through. It's about YouTube and... Okay, there we go. So there you go, if you want to join the game, you could do so there. Okay. So what we are talking about today. We're going to, okay, let's see, where do I want to start? Hello Jolene. Hello Jonathan. Welcome to class. Hello Usopp. What type is B minus? Okay. Positive vibes. Hello. Hello. Ready for class? Okay. Hi Abby. Okay. We're gonna wait for people to come into class. Mark attendance. We are marking attendance right now. Class has not started quite yet, so you can't watch stream. That's okay, you'll be here. Yeah, you're in the game. There should be enough room. 50 people can join the game. All of you should be able to come. All of you who want to come can come. Vin Tyler is just casually levitating. Okay, Midisy. Okay. Taking attendance. We have everyone here. Woo, got in, yes. Okay, let's see. You can't join. Oh, that's unfortunate. You're still here in chat. You're still here in the stream. You're still here for the lesson. With all this chaos. Okay. Let's see. So everybody please take a seat. Everybody please take a seat. Everybody please take a seat. Take a seat and we'll start the lesson. Tyler's just levitating. We're upstairs. You can take any seat. Any seat. Take any seat. You can take any seat, class. Magically get your own seat. Okay. It's okay, Jolene. Or Abby. You're probably Abby. Hey, Finn. Okay. So now we're going to start. We're gonna close that for now. Actually, no, we'll leave it open. Oh, gotta go. Okay, bye, Jolene. Any seat you want, as long as it's vacant. Okay. So first thing, bye. Give me a seat when you can fly. True. Bringing C with you. Okay. Sure. Sure. Yay, you can watch. Yay. Wait, you need class? Okay. So everybody take a seat so we can get the lesson started. So we can get everything started. Okay, I'm gonna go right into it now. So basically in the Ember Verse, which is what I've decided to call it, it's gone by many different names in the past just because there's been like many different iterations of this story. You know, a lot of different versions of it. Holy cow, why is it so chilly in this room? I'm just...
Authentic Arkansas is
boy.
Historic
Okay, canon that our classroom is just really cold right now. Okay.
Family genealogy.
So basically there's been many different iterations of this story. It's been, you know, in the process of being made for like 5 years. So there's a whole lot there. It wasn't always, you know, it wasn't always referred to as the Ember Verse. Once, in the very beginning of the story, it was actually about wolves. But a lot has changed since then, and it is no longer about wolves. We are talking about the lore that connects all my stories. I could possibly make this into an animated series about me teaching these students about this universe. Oh gosh. So, you know, it was once about wolves, but it's not. Yes, you could join. Of course you could join. You are free to join. So it was once about wolves, but it is no longer about wolves. Anime. Since then, it went from being Star Wolves to something called Wings of Origin, which is still mostly centered on wolves, but no longer just like normal wolves. It was basically, you took wolves, put wings on them, made them basically godlike entities, and that's what this series was. But then since then, it was no longer about wolves, because it, you know, it turns out it's kind of hard to, like, do a whole lot. You can see, please. Vin, go. Vin Tyler, go sit down. Holy cow. Bird's adventure. Yeah, you could join. You could join here. Let me just give you the link to the game. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Why was that so funny? Just Ventana's just like in the window. What? So it's jokingly called Update Simulator. You're late to your first class. It's okay. The lesson hasn't fully started yet. I was just explaining that there were many different iterations of this story. But we are currently talking about, you know, the one in the present. So no matter what time period of the story you're looking at, yes, you could join, go ahead. Everyone can join. So at the very beginning, and even until now, there are basically 6 different groups of people. So for like the beginning of this whole Emberverse, there was one being, and this being was known as Orgo, also known as the being of origin, because, you know, Emberverse is the story, like, how all of my, it basically just describes how all my stories are connected. So all the different lore I've made, all the stories I've written, all of the series I've done on YouTube, how all of this is connected. And I'm basically teaching a class explaining how this works. So from like the very, you know, the very beginning of the Emberverse, there was a being named Orgo. Well, not named Orgo. Their title was Orgo, but not much is known about Orgo, who is, again, the being of origin, and the one who essentially created the Emberverse. Not much is known about Orgo at all, because... Oh, wait until I'm done talking for a moment, please. Not much is known about Orgo, because nobody's really seen Orgo, nobody knows what Orgo looks like, nobody knows who Orgo is, what Orgo is. They just know Orgo. And even then, most mortals, like, even most, like, immortals, there's only been, like, very few people, maybe 2, maybe a little more than that, people who actually know that Orgo exists at all. Okay, so what is your question, Sio? What is your question, Sio? Very mythical. Very mythical, very unknown. You're not Orgo. O-R-I-G-O. What is Orgo? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what Orgo is. Other than the being of origin. Yes? We got a lot of tags. Interesting. My canonical name is Temmie. Okay. I will try to remember that. Okay. So Orgo is usually represented by a gray crystal. No, you are not Orgo. Is Monsters of Etheria series canon? Probably not. At least not what we've established in it. So probably not, probably not. Okay. No, you can't be Orgo's brother either. No. You guys can't just make up lore. The Orgo is usually represented by the gray crystal. And the gray crystal is assumed to be... Yes, mythical music. The gray crystal is assumed to be Orgo's talisman. Which we'll get more into talismans later. But talismans are basically objects which may be bound to certain origins, creators, and other, you know, powerful beings. not everyone has a talisman. And then even those who do have talismans, there's two different types of talismans, and again, we'll get into that later. So that's probably not a lesson for today, probably at a certain, you know, a different date. So Orgo created the universe, but the thing about Orgo is Orgo can't actually, it doesn't seem that Orgo can actually interact with the universe. While Orgo created it, Orgo is not actually existing within the universe. They are an entity outside of it altogether. So basically a part of the universe, but also not a part of the universe. So simultaneously canon and not canon. Orgo. So Orgo, because... Okay, wait, we'll get into that. What is your question? What is your question? Takes note. What's the Ember Verse? The Ember Verse is basically how all of my stories connect. How my writing, connects, how... Is this made up? That depends on whether you consider this class canon or not. Is this class canon to the Ember Verse or is it not? Anyway. So... The Ember Verse is basically how all my writing, my actual stories, the books I make, Dream SMP. Not Dream SMP, SMP proximity. If I join Dream SMP, then maybe I'll manage to find a way. World Zero, Lumi and Lexi, it basically explains how all of these stories connect, are basically made into one. The class is totally canon. So... Continuing. Because Orgo cannot actually... You want to be a Dragon Knight? Okay. Okay, so... Kaden. So because Orgo cannot actually... you know, interact with the universe and be a real part of it, Orgo made two other beings to kind of do, carry out that role. Whoops, I bumped the microphone. Excuse me. Created two other beings to basically carry out the universe for them. And so basically, they took the gray crystal and split it into two others. So the gray crystal does not currently exist. It is currently into two separate crystals, one of which is the white crystal and one of which is the black crystal. These end up becoming the talismans of Omnia and Niall, respectively. Yes, you can live underground in Intemi Village. Hello, Liam. Okay. Niall. Okay, this is Ember Verse. It is a class in which I explain how all, the lore of my stories and how everything connects. So it explains the world, the universe of my books, my writing, SMP proximity, Lumion Legacy Nuzlocke, World Zero. Basically explains how all this works and how all this connects. This is what this is. Okay, hello Peace. Okay, so continuing on, Orgo, what is your question? What is your question? What is your question? And everyone do please have a seat. Please have a seat. You want to try to fit this into the Catman timeline? How do all universes connect? We'll get there. We'll get there. That's a lesson for another day. Okay, what is your question, Egg? Egg rolls, what's your question? Yes, hello Invictus. E. We will get there. That's definitely gonna be one of the earlier lessons, because it is kind of an important one to understand how on earth, like, world... Is Ember and Ember Dragon different? Yes. Yes. Okay. So where does food god possessing my cat? We'll get there. We will get there. Those are all lessons for other days. Okay, so Orgo, as I was mentioning earlier, basically split the gray crystal into two, created the white crystal and the black crystal. The white crystal ended up becoming the talisman of Omnia, who is the being of everything. And the black crystal became the talisman of Niall, who is the being of nothing. You can remember them because Omnia means everything, which is like omnipotent. And Niall means nothing, like annihilate.
National Guard to make a difference in my community.
What is your question?
My path of purpose. I was able to make an impact in more than just my life.
What is your question?
Tuition assistance.
Invictus could join the game. I must have destroyed the game. Just ignore me flying. Is Orgo immortal? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know anything about Orgo. Orgo may be immortal, Orgo may not be immortal. All we know is that Orgo created the universe and created Omnia and Niall. But other than that, we don't know. Don't know anything about Niall. I mean, not Niall. We know stuff about Niall. We don't know stuff about Orgo. So, Orgo created Omnia and Niall. And, the crystals became their talismans. Omnia and Niall, we definitely know for sure that they are immortal. And both of them go by different names, which usually refers more to their crystals than, like, their actual selves. Omnia and Niall are also both kind of mysterious figures. We don't know much about them, but, like, kind of like Omnia, we don't know much about them, but we know more about them than we do Orgo. So, we don't know Ember. You create everything. I know, but I'm not allowed to tell you guys. That's something I'm gonna keep a secret to myself. That's a secret that I'm gonna keep to myself. I know if Orgo's immortal or not. Okay. So, Omnia and Niall. We don't know much about them, but definitely more is known about them than is known Orgo. Orgo, it's kind of debated whether Orgo even exists or not. We don't know. You don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe it does. Who knows? Who knows what Orgo is? Rejoin. Rejoin, Misha. Okay. Let's see. Where was I? Omnia and Niall. So Omnia and Niall, their job is pretty much, presumably, to make sure that the cycle of the universe continues and doesn't get interrupted. Because if there was no new cycle, then there wouldn't be Emberverse anymore. It'd just stop. It'd be over. What is your question? Best concert I've ever been to? Thank you. Okay. The universe is eternal, assuming that Omnia and Niall do their jobs. And what is your question, Midizzy? What is your question, everyone? What are your questions? Want to change your profile picture to Fire Dragon? What are your questions? We have a lot of questions in this class. This class is just full of questions. So many questions in this class. Is this Pog? Yes. Absolutely. This is absolutely Pog. This class is very chaotic, but it's very interesting. No, you cannot decide when Temu is made. When Temu Village is made. No. We might find a way of deciding that later on. Okay. Any other questions before I continue? I don't think that that's canon, Caden. I don't think that that's canon. What's your question, Colby? What is your question? Are you going to learn ABCs? No. No ABCs will be taught here. I almost said learned. I mean, I guess it's not completely wrong. Not canon. It is crowded in here. Okay. Let's see. Gonna make your own canon character? Maybe at some point. Maybe at some point. Are there other people like me? Yeah. Sure. Okay. Can we continue now? No ABCs unless we're learning the ABCs of magic. That might be fun one day. Yeah, hi stream. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Omnia and Niall. There we go. That's a better view of the class. Look at that. Okay, so Omnia and Niall, their jobs are to make sure that the universe is able to continue in its cycle, which we'll get into cycles another time also. A lot of this stuff is kind of things that we'll have to tackle one class at a time. It's okay. There's nothing powerful enough to destroy the Emberverse. Unless Orgo. Orgo is the only one with power to destroy the Emberverse. I don't know how long it's gonna be. It'll be as long as it is. Okay. Continuing. So Omnia and Niall, they make sure that the universe cycle continues, and they also carry out Orgo's will. We don't know. No one within the Emberverse can destroy Orgo, or defeat Orgo. Orgo is very powerful. Yes, Theo? Sure. Help. Reset if you... Can Orgo defeat itself? Yes. Orgo can defeat itself. But Orgo... Yeah. Orgo probably wouldn't. Orgo can defeat itself. Okay. So Omnia and Niall. Okay. Bye, Jonathan. Hope to see you later. And also, it's okay, Liam. Is Orgo the Arceus of the Emberverse? Kind of. Okay. Continuing. So Omnia and Niall, they continue to cycle the universe, and they also carry out Orgo's will. Pretty much. That's about what happens. Orgo and Niall also have two other jobs, and that is, each of them are in charge, because like Orgo, they also don't have complete interaction with the universe, because Orgo doesn't allow them to always have interaction with the universe, because it seems that Orgo kind of wants to prevent them from having so much power that they influence the world to be exactly how they want. So really, the only one who has power to completely manipulate the universe would be Orgo. Omnia and Niall are, however, the beings that Orgo's made to basically govern the universe in its place. The god of the Emberverse isn't Orgo, it's Ember? Oh no, it's most certainly Orgo. Ember has relatively little power compared to very many other beings in the Emberverse. Does Orgo have a family? We don't know. We do not know. If Orgo has a family, it is not within the Emberverse. Okay. So Omnia and Niall, they also cannot directly interact with the universe. I'll get to you in a second, Mitzi. They also cannot directly interact with the universe, they also have to, you know, interact with it through other people, because if they could, they'd have too much power and they'd be able to influence it. However, we do not know what gender Orgo is. We don't know. So, okay, what are your questions? What are your questions? What are your questions? And then we'll continue on with... Yes. You may go. If you have questions, ask them now. I won't answer more until I'm done explaining the... Can you ship the dragons in this series? I suppose so. You could. You're actually taking notes? Good job. Thank you for being a good student. Is there Beerus? I don't know. I don't know what Beerus is, so I don't know if there is or not. And also, I don't know if there are any bathrooms here. Probably not. Honestly, you might just have to go outside. I don't think Tyus built any bathrooms here. Okay. Can you be a dragon? Sure, whatever. Be a dragon if you want. I don't know where Bob is. Okay. I'm continuing with the lessons. No questions until... Okay, dragons don't need exception. No more questions until... yes, because they're for completely different topics. A girl's the dragon, okay. What is a dragon steal? Can you go on a field trip? Maybe... But not today. Okay. No more questions until I ask if there are any. For now. But yes, because one of them was a Lumion Legacy Nuzlocke stream, and this one is me straight up talking about lore for a while. I'm basically teaching a class about the lore of my series. Okay, I will address your questions all later. Let me get through something. Let me make some progress in this lesson, please. Okay. So moving on. Why does the dragon sleep during the day? Some do. Okay, I'm gonna close Roblox chat for a second just so I can focus on actually giving my lesson here. Okay. So please be quiet, class. Thank you. Okay, continuing on. So Omnia and Niall, because they cannot, like Orgo, they cannot have full interaction with the universe. Sometimes they are, sometimes Omnia allows them to do some things. I'm not Omnia, Orgo. Sometimes Orgo allows Omnia and Niall to do some things in the universe, but most of the time they can't really do much. So their way of interacting with the universe is they basically choose two people to be Bonum, which is the being of good, and Malum, which is the being of evil. So Omnia chooses the Bonum. So Omnia chooses who the being of good is, and Niall chooses who the being of evil is. Now, the beings of good and evil aren't necessarily good and evil. This reputation was basically developed because earlier on, not like super early on, not in the very beginning, but as things progressed, later Omnias and Nials, because there are multiple of them, which again we can get into a little later on. But the reason that they have the reputation for being good and evil is because there was once an Omnia that was more good, and there was once a Niall that was more evil. So because they like repetitively chose the Bonum and the Malum, like the good Omnia would consistently choose good people to be Bonum. So Bonum became the being of good. Whereas Niall, we had a evil Niall, and Niall consistently chose evil people to be the being of evil. So Malum was just associated with evil. So just because somebody is Bonum or Malum does not necessarily mean that they are good or evil. They still have like free will. They don't have to be good or evil. It's just a reputation that has been developed for either title. Okay. So that's basically how Bonum and Malum are chosen. But those aren't the only things that Omnia and Niall can, choose. Because, well, in Omnia and Niall, they are like the only truly immortal beings within the universe, within the Emberverse. But that doesn't mean that an Omnia or Niall lasts forever. Whenever they decide that they have done their time, they may choose someone else to become Omnia or Niall. So Omnia will pass down their title to someone else, and then that person that is chosen will then become Omnia in their place. Whereas the previous Omnia, the one who gave their title away, would then fade away into non-existence. The same thing is true with Niall. So it basically covers most of what is known about Omnia and Niall. There's also a whole thing that Omnia is associated with light and Niall is associated with darkness just because of everything and nothing. But, this isn't always the case, it's just kind of how it is, most of the time. Now, of course, Bonum and Malum aren't the only Origins. They do belong to a group of people called the Origins, which is the group of people right under Omnia and Niall. So, at the very top, we have Orgo, then you have Omnia and Niall, and then below that, we have the Origins. Now, the Origins, their existence is not really doubted by anyone. Except, maybe the mortals. But anyone who is like a creator or another origin, or, Orgo, Omnia, Niall, they know for sure that, yeah, the origins exist. So there are exactly 6 origins. And the origins basically serve as like the governing force of the creators, which are kind of like other godlike beings, which we'll get into next. And they're very similar to the creators, but my gosh, I had hiccups. And also, why is it so darn cold in this classroom? Holy crap. Anyway, bye Jake. Have a good rest of your night or day, whatever it is for you. So there are exactly 6 origins. And these origins are chosen in a very specific way, in a slightly less specific order. So, yes, it is very chilly in this classroom. So the very first, well, there's actually 2 origins. No. Very first origin. I was on the right track the first time. The first origin of each cycle is Vita. And Vita is the being of life. So of course, she has to be the first in order for all of the other origins to kind of even exist to take their place in the first place. Now, Vita, the being of life, I may refer to her as a she or girl a lot. But just like any of the other titles, Vita can be either gender. I'm just used to saying she because I am most familiar with the 9th cycle of the universe, in which Vita is in fact a girl. Here, let me send you the game and you could just join in. We just be chilling here in the classroom. There you go. It's jokingly called Update Simulator. Okay. So, where was I? So Vita. So Vita is, again, the being of life. They are the very first of the origins to be, I would say created, but that's not entirely the case. It's more like Vita is reborn. So there was the very first Vita, and every time Vita dies, well, first of all, everything else dies because Vita has to be alive in order to support life in the first place. But Vita dies, and then the cycle of the universe ends because everything else dies, but then eventually Vita is reborn and a new cycle begins. So that means technically there are areas in between cycles, but they're not very long, and usually they're very uneventful. Can you be friends? I don't friend anyone on Roblox just because I can't friend all of you. Like, I don't have enough, there aren't enough friend slots. Okay, let's see. So yeah, if Vita dies, everyone dies. So Vita, their main goal is to keep basically everything alive. And while usually you might be like, hey, wouldn't that, you know, require a ton of power to keep everyone alive? This is not exactly the case. Because Vita, their talisman is consistently throughout every cycle. Because, you know, things can change between cycles, between different people holding the same position. Vita's talisman is usually the Tree of Life. Like, consistently the Tree of Life. Not even usually, always. Always the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life, which, again, may be a thing just to cover another day in its entirety. The Tree of Life basically keeps everything else alive and supports life for Vita. So mostly does Vita's job, and Vita's only real job is to keep the Tree of Life alive so the Tree of Life can keep everyone else alive. The location of the... Yes, well, you can only water it if Vita allows you to. You can't just go and water it. Because the Tree of Life is in the Life Realm. Which, I can't talk. I'm stumbling all over my words. Realms are kind of a thing that... It's kind of entirely up to the owners of those realms as to who can enter it and when. There's not COVID. There's no COVID in the Emberverse. Okay. Continuing on. So yeah, Vita is reborn every time. That's what continues the cycles, and that's usually what determines the end of the cycle. Vita cannot defeat Orgo, no. In fact, Vita can technically kill other people, but they are not supposed to. If they do, they basically face like huge repercussions. Like, it is possible that for Vita to like nearly die just by killing someone else because it goes so against what their being is supposed to be. And then we're gonna be separate realm? Maybe. We'll discuss that at a future date. Okay. So basically that's Vita. And Vita, also another thing, Vita's usually a shapeshifter, so no consistent form or anything. But, oh, also another thing about Vita. Vita keeps memories from the past lives, so is usually, you know, tends to be like the wisest and one of the most reasonable of all the origins. Not really the leader, but definitely kind of tends to know more than the other members of the origins. You want to join your group, but it's still pending requests. Can you please join? I mean, I thought I opened it up to everyone. If it's not letting you in, just like try joining again. So like stop the pending and then just try to rejoin. And yes, I saw Liam. Thank you. Okay. Continuing on. So that's Vita. Now, the next two of the origins that take their place are the twin beings of Tempest and Locust. And these two, they are always twins, and they also never really die. Whenever Vita dies, they more just become... Well, basically, to understand this completely, is you need to kind of understand what Tempest and Locust are. And they're kind of like the physical embodiments of the concepts of time and space. So they don't really have a form. Like, what their true form is can't really be described, but they also may take whatever other forms they may need for whatever it is they need. Well, of course they would be very powerful, seeing as they are the beings of time and space. They often do not interact with the rest of the world because they're making sure that time and space flow properly. So they make sure that nothing disrupts that flow, which means that, say, Tempest, the being of time, would be like no time travel, which is why nobody time travels in this universe. Time travel is not a thing. Tempest would basically immediately shut it down because time traveling would mess up the flow of time, and they would not be very happy about that. And thank you, Dragon. Also, is there something in the next scene you need to know more about the Emberverse? No, not yet. We will definitely cover Lumion Legacy in later lessons. Though, of course, Lumion Legacy is related. And I don't friend people because I can't friend all of you, so to make it fair, I don't friend anyone. Okay. Now, So there's Tempest and Locust. So while Tempest pretty much stops time travel and also makes sure that time flows as it should, and make sure nothing disrupts it anyway, Locust, the being of space, mostly... Well, there's not a ton of stuff that Locust disallows. Locust basically says no to teleportation, except for portals and entrances to realms in which they are like heavily regulated by Locust. So Locust, you know, keeps an eye on the portals and makes sure that they don't like cause a huge problem. Make a group called the Dragon Nation? Okay. Okay. So there's Tempest and Locust. And then... So that's 3 of them. You have Vita, Tempest, and Locust. I might get into that later. Well, I'll answer questions in a moment. Bye, see you, Sketchers. Okay. And then after that is Bonum and Malum. We already talked about how they're chosen. And they essentially just serve as the figure pieces of Omnia and Niall. They don't have any like major responsibilities like all the other origins do. They kind of just usually, like, they're not completely controlled by Omnia and Niall. They still have free will, but they tend to carry out Omnia and Niall's will, seeing as those are the guides that gave them power. So Bonum and Malum, not very complicated. Have more freedom than any other origin, pretty much. And then, finally, the last one and the youngest one we have is Mortem, which is the being of death. Now Mortem, I keep wanting to say they are basically, okay, so how you become Mortem is the first person to die in each cycle of the universe becomes Mortem, whether they like it or not. Some Mortems are very happy about this, and others not so much. Okay. See you later. Okay. Let's see. Where was I? Okay, Mortem. Yes, Mortem. Mortem is the first person to die. And they become Mortem in order to be the being... Oh, I moved the laptop. So, oh my gosh. They're the being that whenever somebody dies, Mortem's job is pretty much to take their soul and bring it to the Death Realm. And the Death Realm is also another topic which we will get to at some point, because the Death Realm is definitely one of the most complicated realms in Emberverse. And... the Mortem, I need to like get my thoughts collected because I keep looking at the chat and be like, okay. I'm trying to think again. Yeah, Mortem takes their souls to the Death Realm, which is his or her main job. Mortem, because Mortem is already dead, Mortem cannot feel pain, cannot be killed again, because, I mean, if you could kill a death, that would cause a ton of problems. It wouldn't work very well. And it just didn't work. It just wouldn't work whatsoever. But Ember? Mortem. Holy cow. Mortem is also well, not the only being. Mortem, Animarum, and any descendants of Mortem are the only beings who can properly see and interact with souls. The only reason Animarum can is because Animarum is literally the being of souls, so it would not make any sense if they couldn't. Mortem can see and interact with souls, doesn't feel pain, can't be killed, is the first person to die, transports souls to the Death Realm whenever they die, and so on. Mortem is also usually one of the most powerful of the acting origins. So obviously Tempest and Locust, very powerful, could do a ton if they wanted to. But they don't interact with the universe. Mortem most certainly does. So Mortem usually is, not always, because sometimes other origins take his place, but Mortem is usually the one who carries out the will of the Origins and maybe like, this is what they have decided and this is what I shall do. So if somebody's gonna give punishments to a creator for like doing something disastrous, it's probably gonna be Mortem, and usually Mortem's seen a lot of death. He's seen all the death. He does not care. Or she. And yes, thank you, Liam. I do already have an official group, though. It can be both. It's both, Trash Gang. It's both. It depends on which part of the universe you're in. So it's both about animal-like creatures and human-like creatures. It depends on what cycle we're in and which part of the universe we're in. It's has a lot of variety in it. Okay. So that pretty much sums up the Origins. And do we have any questions? That's okay, Liam. No, you cannot bring weapons into the classroom. Okay. Any questions? Ask Tyus. Ask Tyus about mod, if you want to be mod. He's in charge of all that. Can we hang in my funeral game, please? Not right now. Maybe later. Not right now. How were they all born? Vita is just reborn into the universe. Kind of just more by Omnia and Niall. So Omnia and Niall kind of decide whenever they want Vita to be reborn. And then Vita's reborn, the cycle continues. Bonum and Malum are both originally mortals who are chosen by Omnia and Niall to become Bonum and Malum. Tempest and Locust are literally just concepts of the universes that gain like a physical like form whenever the cycle restarts. And Mortem is also originally a mortal who just dies. Rest in peace, Mortem. Can Temmie Village be its own faction? Maybe. We'll talk about Temmie Village later. Can we go on a field trip? Maybe at some point. Not today, though. Tempest is the being of time. Tempest is the being of time. You could get mod, but you have to ask Tyus about that. So go to the Discord, contact him about it. He decides all that. He's in charge of that. Guess who you are? I don't know, who are you? You're Dragonsteel. At this point I kind of assume you're Liam, but I don't know. I could be wrong there. Oh, thank you for whatever that was. Follow, subscription, whatever. I do appreciate it. Whatever it was. My vents aren't working. Okay, it was a subscription. Thank you for subscribing, John. I appreciate it. I don't think you're here right now. I think that might just be a delayed thing. Yeah, but Tempest is like temporal. Tempest. Oh, Trash Gang. Okay, cool. Okay. In the YouTube chat. Okay. Any more questions? Any more questions? Or are we going to continue to the next group? Oh yes, I figured that you were Medici. Okay. What is your question? What is your question? Don't call me a noob. And also, sorry if I was talking really fast. I'm trying to get through as much of this as I can. Can we time travel if you had a field trip? No. Tempest would not allow it. Tempest would be like, no, excuse me, that would ruin the flow of time. No. No time traveling. No time traveling here. And bye, CEO. Oh, okay. Okay, now we're moving on to the next group. The next group are the creators, which, as mentioned earlier, are kind of these godlike beings. They have... maybe. Okay. Continuing. So creators are the groups that are kind of like godlike beings. They're usually... there are some that are, but most of them are not as powerful as the Origins. and they're kind of governed by the origins, so there's some regulation on what they can and can't do. But for the most part, yeah, no. Let's think. So creators, there isn't a set number, because origins, you know, there's always 6. There's always 2 for Omnia and Niall, because there's 2 of them, and there's only 1 Orgo. But there can be as many creators as you can think of concepts. You can look at that. Is there a creator of fire? Probably. Could there be a creator of chairs? Yeah, whatever. Creator of water? Sure, probably. Like, anything you could think of can have a creator. Just because it can does not always mean it does. And even within, like, different cycles of the universe. There can be a creator of Temmie. Is there? Don't know, but there can be. So, anything you can think of, there can be a creator of it. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is. And even then, just because there's a creator of something in one cycle of the universe does not mean that there's a creator of that same thing in another cycle. So say that there's a Dolor in one universe, and Dolor would be the being of pain. There could be a, you know, in one cycle there could be a Dolor, and in the next there's no Dolor, but then the one after that there is. Like things like that, so it's not always consistent, it's not always the same, it changes. It changes as different things go on, and kind of just based on what is needed and what isn't. But the creators, they can, and sometimes do, kind of decide what happens concerning their specialty within the universe. So sometimes Ignis, the being of fire, can be like, and I control all the fire in the universe. But most of the time, a creator doesn't necessarily decide what happens with their thing all the time, like, always. But a creator may use whatever they're specialized in kind of to their will. So, you know, Ignis can fight using fire, Aqua can fight or do whatever using water. But they don't necessarily decide, like, what always happens with everything. Okay. What else? There's also many different ways to become a creator. Well, becoming an origin is very specific and is like the same all the time. Stop dancing on his head, please. Well, you know, because being an origin is like, oh, you were once just a concept, or you died, or you were reborn, or, you know, you were chosen by Omnia or Niall. Creators can be made in much more ways. There's 4 main ways. There's some others that aren't really done as much, which, like, we'll talk about that if we get to a character that involves it. But we'll just talk about the basic ones, otherwise we'd be here forever. So, the first way, and most common, would be someone like Vita, Omnia, or Niall, just straight up creating someone to be a creator, for the whole purpose of it. The second would be being the child of 2 other creators or origins. You know, because if you are the son or daughter of a godlike being, or 2 godlike beings, then you are probably a godlike being yourself. So some of them are born to be such a being. Then, a mortal, kind of like how Bonum and Malum gain their titles, can be essentially promoted or made into a creator. This happens, well, not really often. Like, sometimes it does, and any of the origins can promote a mortal into a creator in this way. Doesn't often happen, though. And congrats, positive vibes. And then the fourth being, the fourth way of becoming a creator in our current cycle, it is outlawed. Nobody can make a creator in this way anymore, just because of how, yes, you can eat. Yes, I don't care if you eat in class. Okay, so basically this fourth way is it's completely banned. You can't do it. It's not good. It caused, a lot of terrible things. And this way of creating creators was discovered in the 9th cycle, Hello, exploding creepers. This way of creating creators was discovered in the 9th cycle, which is the one that we have the most story about. Please don't dance on anyone's head. So, the 9th cycle, there was a being named, well, not named, because while I may be like Mortem, Vita, Ignis, those aren't their real names, those are their titles. They all have real, well, not all of them have real names. They pretty much, almost all of them have real names, but not very many of them actually go by the real name. Some of them even forget it. So, titles and names are very different. Like, we have Destructi, who's the being of destruction. Her real name is Arashi. But there was someone with the title of Imperium in the 9th cycle. 9th cycle is Imperium. And Imperium is the being of power. You could think of this like imperialism, in which countries can basically take over, well, not really conquer, but basically go to other countries and be like, yo, I'm your king now. So kind of conquer. So imperialism, Imperium, power. Imperium, he wanted to be the king of the demons. And as such, he wanted to gain the attention of Tuzror, who was the current king of the demons. Because if he was able to gain his attention, he may be able to kill him and take his place. So Imperium ended up trying to create creators in order to... Oh, thank you, Trash. Thank you, Trash. So Imperium ended up, he tried to create a creator, not just to have a creator to help with certain things in the universe, or just to have life. He wanted to create a creator to serve as a weapon for him. He never intended to treat the people that he created as actual people, as actual, like, living beings that had thoughts and feelings of his own. He wanted to create these people and use them as actual weapons to meet his own goals. He was probably one of the worst villains I've written. Terrible person. And the whole reason that this is outlawed, first of all, was, thank you, Usopp, was if he created, like if somebody creates someone else in such a way, it can cause to, basically something can go wrong. Something can go wrong, and whatever being was created could be like awfully deformed. So, a lot of his earlier experiments were basically abominations of nature, things that should not exist, things that were probably in a whole lot of pain, just living miserable existences, things that were all deformed and not really any sort of being, just awful, really. And this, you know, when this was discovered by the Origins, they were like, no, this is awful. You are creating things that can't even truly survive. No. So that's why you can't do it anymore. But there were a few successful beings that were created in this way. There are a few of them who had problems because of how they were created. But only... I don't know, Trash Gang. But it looks like it got blocked out. I can't actually see what link you posted. But pretty much, yeah, there are only a few, and I'll go ahead and name the ones that there are, because there aren't very many of them. So the first of them was Pars. He was a being of parties. He was kind of insane. Definitely a failed experiment? I don't know, a failed creation for sure. Not necessarily an experiment. Failed creation, definitely insane. Oh yeah. He liked to party a lot. He accidentally murdered his brother. Well, brother, meaning another one of these creations that was created around the same time as him. Not today, we're not going on a field trip today. So, Pars, yeah, being at parties, he tried, whenever the second was being created, the second was Dolor, the being of pain. And he tried to free, Dolor before Dolor was fully formed. And this led to Delor's wings, because Delor did have wings. Delor's wings did not work properly, and so whenever they were trying to escape, he basically fell to his death, because Pars straight up pushed him off a cliff. Good job, Pars, we love you. Yeah. What? Yeah. So Pars pushed Delor to his death off a cliff. That's not the end of Delor. We'll get into his story later. The third was Arbitus, the being of the Forgotten. People don't usually remember him. And that's that. He tries very hard to be remembered, but he's not really remembered. He's just... People kind of forget that he exists, and half time people forget that he was even one of these creations. I mean, I could toggle door, but I don't want to. Okay. Now, the fourth of the original creations of Imperium was, Nota. Nota was the being of the undead. You can think Death Note, except reverse. So like Life Note, but not quite. And Nota, she ended up, there was nothing wrong with her, no deformations. But she did end up bringing Delor back to life a few times. So there's that. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, these beings were created by taking the essences of other, like, creators and origins and basically combining them, boom, new being. It was more complicated than that. It kind of required, like, a combination of Imperium's magic and science. But yeah, basically, so we have, like, Pars. He was made from the essences of Mortem and Malum, so death and evil. So is Delor. Arbitus, honestly, I forgot what he was made from. I think, like, thoughts and shadows or something like that. I don't remember what the being of Forgotten was made from, but he existed. And then Nota was from Vida and Mortem, so life and death, boom, undead. So they tend to make sense, usually. And hello, exploding creeper. You can make fan art, okay. Have fun. Okay. And then, those are the original four, and then there was some time none were created, and then we had, Destructi and Creatura, so the beings of destruction and creation. Destructi was made from fire and shadows, and Creatura was made, oh my gosh, I have hiccups, gosh, annoying. Creatura was made from life and thoughts, yeah. Goodbye! Okay. And then there was a really, well, not a really long period of time, but there was only one more being that was created like this. And this was Cruciatu, the being of torture. And he was created from pain and destruction. So Delor and Destructi, and as you may remember, these were two other beings created in this way. So basically, you take two people who were made from the essences of two others, and you take their essences and make another one. So he's basically a fusion of two fusions. And this was definitely not meant to happen. And it caused a kind of scenario in which he could hear the voices of the people that he was made from in his head at all times. Until later on in his story, we'll get there at some point. This last character was Dusk. So this is where Dusk comes into play. And so he had a lot of voices, well, not a lot, only two voices in his head. The voice of Destructi, who wasn't the real Destructi, it was just the voice of her, had the same personality. And he had the voice of Delor, who, as you may remember, Delor was dead. He got pushed off a cliff at this point in time. So that was the actual Delor, just sitting in his in his head, being the voice in his head, trying to get him to do a lot of violent things, but we'll get into Dusk's story at a later point in time. So that pretty much sums it up for the creators, and the different ways that they can be created, and their main role is literally just go do God stuff, do whatever the crap you want, so you don't really have any responsibilities like the Origins or Omnia and Niall do. go do what you want, be powerful. Just make sure that you don't tick off the origins. So that's pretty much how the creators are. Then under the creators we have the mortals. Now the mortals do not necessarily have like a super short lifespan. While they do have a lifespan, sometimes it's so long that it doesn't even remember that they do have a lifespan. The mortals, they're pretty much like, you know, how you would think of people on, say, Earth. Some of them believe in, like, the creators or the origins. Or maybe, but very rarely, Omnia and Niall. Some of them do not. They mostly just kind of live average lives, don't concern themselves too much with what the creators or origins are doing, and so on. They're just normal people, they don't usually get involved, unless the creators happen to bring their own conflicts to the mortal realm, which doesn't happen too much. The immortals could also refer to things such as angels and demons. They do exist in this universe. In the Ember Verse, they are mortals. They have lifespans, not all of them have titles. Some of them do, and the ones that do are creators or origins. But, yeah, angels and demons, definitely considered mortals in this universe. The Demon King is definitely a story from another day. Definitely. So yeah, mortals, not much to talk about there. And then there's the dead, which are technically another group. Yes, the Demon King is canon, and we will get there. Not today, because there's a lot to talk about with him. And then there's the dead, which anyone who dies, basically everyone eventually joins this group except for Vita, who's reincarnated, Tempest and Nocus, who just become the concepts they originally were, and Mortem, who was already dead to begin with. But everybody else eventually becomes dead, because they do eventually die, because everyone dies and Vita dies. So there's no one who is truly immortal except for Omnia and Niall. And whenever the mortals and everyone else dies, they're dead. Once they're dead, they go to the Death Realm, are brought there by Mortem, and if they die again, then, well, they fade into non-existence. You can be killed when you're dead, not very, common. It's not very common to be killed again. Some are, some aren't. But either way, they're in the Death Realm, which again is something that we'll have to talk about later. Other than that, that pretty much explains all those groups. Very simple. Well, not very simple, but does anyone else have any questions? Do you have any questions about what we have so far? Anything that needed elaboration before I end today? Anything else? Since I know that some of you guys are kind of getting bored. Which I'm sorry about that. I do not mean to bore you guys. But do we have any questions? Should we make fan dragons? No questions? Okay, what is your question, Sia? Will the next class take place? I don't know. Do you guys want another class? Because I do think some of you guys are getting bored of this. Okay. But mortals? Yeah, basically. We want another? Oh, you do want another. So you're actually interested in this. Okay, you do. One more thing? Okay. What is the one more thing you have? Maybe? Make him. Yeah, sure, you can make the game Now's Underground, I don't care. Go ahead. In my minutes? Yes, ooh. And please do this tomorrow. I'm tired, but still want to catch up? I mean, sure. Today we just kind of covered the different groups of people. What do you guys want to hear about tomorrow? If I do, assuming I do this tomorrow. I could talk about, the Death Realm is everything. I could talk about talismans, I could talk about, well, not any of the characters, because there's some other things I need to consider. Okay, talismans, death realm, angels or demons. One or the other, probably. I could talk about, maybe I could talk about the Demon King, but he's a bit complicated right now. So probably not. The death realm? I could talk about the mortal realm, the creation realm. Well, any of the realms are kind of free to be spoken about. What are things I write down that I want to? War? We could potentially talk about war. Hello. Can you go to heaven and talk about it? You can theoretically? We could talk about the crystals. We could talk more about Omnia or Niall, except there's not much else to talk about with them unless we're talking about a specific character. Yeah, sure, we could take field trips. We could at some point. Not today, though. But at some point, definitely. So, let's see. Who else can I talk about? This or yon? Because, of course, I want to get through all the basic stuff before I really do other stuff. Like, before I talk about, like, a character. Because if you don't understand completely how it works. Oh, another thing I forgot to add about the creators and origins. Each of them do have their own realm, and they can control who enters and exits the realm. So that's another thing. Fighting training, maybe. Ah! I don't know. I'll take out 4 ideas I think of, and I'll put them to a vote. I'll put the 4 ideas that we think of to a vote. So any other questions? Any other questions, or are we good to end class here today? And remember, if you're not already in the classroom, you can go ahead and join that. Highest score gets to have Dusk, the Wisp Pup. So on. Oh. Your cat? We will explain that at a later, point in time whenever we do talk about specific characters, including the food god, which would be the being of food. You like it, but please... Yeah. Okay. For all those who want to join the Google Classroom, where we have classwork on it, we can go ahead and do that. Let me see, what? Okay, oh, Teddy was, I'll have a survey at some point, and then it'll be randomly selected from the people who answer that survey. I could play your games at some point in time. Yep. So I think I'm going to end stream about here. And I'm gonna stay on this game, so I'll talk to you guys. And I could talk a little bit more about certain things. And just be a teacher after school. But until then, I'll go ahead and put certain links in chat for people who need it. So first we have the game link. There. And then we're gonna have the classroom link, which the link to join the classroom is here. The join code is here. And then I think that's about all I need to share right now. So anyway, I'm going to end this stream here. This class is over. So thank you guys for attending. As I will make quote-unquote homework for this class in the classroom. And again, person with the highest score in the class will be able to get Dusk. So basically it's a fun way for you guys, well, kind of fun depending on who you ask, for you guys to have a chance at earning Dusk and also learning more about the lore of the series. I'm going to definitely take the VOD and edit this so that way it just gets all the lore bits and puts them in a simpler video with better explanations. But you're here during the live class, and then I'll make a video that's more simple and shorter and definitely has like some editing or animation or something to help with the concepts. Anyway, let's see. Who do we want to raid for we Twitch people? I don't think Siri's still alive, and even if she was, I don't think I could raid people twice in a row. I think that I might be slightly embarrassed if I do that. Ooh, Bad Boy Halo's doing art, so we could do that. Yeah, that's right, Bad. That sounds fun. Go chill with Bad Boy Halo. Twitch.tv/Bad Boy Halo. Anyway, that's all for this stream. So I'll see you in the next one, next class, next stream, whatever it is we decide to do.